What is up, office workers and builders? I am just a simple Newtype, and in this episode we are taking it easy today and diving into the story Two Girls in Love with HG. One girl is an over 30-something office worker. The other is a high school student whose family runs a hobby shop. These two girls will find each other and build a friendship through Gunpla. I don't build Gunpla too often these days, so let me know if I'm missing any Easter eggs. So let's get into this. Kanzaki leaves the office early. Unlike most people in Japan, she is out of the office at 5, which is considered early. Office workers in Japan are the closest thing to real-life NPCs. Got 'em, Japan! One of her coworkers says that her department is delivering above and beyond. He tries to set her up with someone as he claims he is a good matchmaker. The man asks what her hobbies are. She says she doesn't have any hobbies. The man pulls out her phone and shows her a pic of a Stark Jagen Gunpla. Her autism gets the best of her and she starts breaking down the Stark Jagen. She talks about the 380mm Hyper Bazooka. She talks about the amazing performance. She even mentions the ability to purge the missile pods. But she completely ignores the shield. Never forget the shield. But she didn't say any of that. It was all in her head, but she refuses to out herself as a Gundam nerd. Her love started when she saw Gundam X as a kid. She enjoyed the cool robots and wanted to buy some Gunpla, but her mother says it wasn't for girls. When she was 14, she watched Gundam Seed and saw Strike Freedom for the first time. This was the first Gundam show that she got to talk with friends about. Everyone was into Atherin, but she just likes the Gundams. Kanzaki was still too scared because of her parents about Gunpla. But now she is 30 and ready to try new things in life. While zoning out, she bumps into a young girl. She drops her recently purchased Ale Strike Gunpla. In the bag was her nippers that she was looking for. Kanzaki says the Gundam strike out loud. The girl says, "Oh, you love Gunpla too." The girl's name is Takamiya Sora. She gives Kanzaki her contact info and takes off. The next day, Kanzaki couldn't get her mind off the young girl. She decides that she will guide this girl and contact her, but she doesn't have to because she just runs into Sora once again. She says she didn't call, so she just looked for her. She doesn't seem to have any friends that are interested in Gunpla her age. Originally, Kanzaki wanted to guide her to not waste her time on these things, but she is taken aback by her youthful energy. Being an Arasa, she has no energy anymore. Remember, Arasa is a portmanteau which means around 30-something, but Sora says that the two have the same eyes. This manga is black and white with the exception of their eyes. She takes Kanzaki to her family store, Takamiya. I assume this is a reference to Tamiya Paints? Kanzaki looks at all the models and is overwhelmed. Even though she is much older, she allows Sora to act as a senpai in this situation. Sora's brother says they could use the back rooms to build. No, don't use the back rooms. I just saw that film. I know how it ends. Kanzaki says build. Whoa, I'm not ready for this responsibility. She has already built most of her L Strike and just has the head and the L Striker pack left. She tells Kanzaki that building together is better. Sora tells her what a runner is. She nips her piece too short, causing an indent. To prevent this, you undercut the piece and file it down carefully. Kanzaki puts on the chest sticker and ends up doing the shaky hands meme. They move on to the L Striker pack. But this is how Kanzaki remembers it as a kid, when it rose up from the ground. It makes her nostalgic and she begins to cry. After they finish building, Kanzaki gives Sora her contact information. She has a dream about her past where she overhears some boys talking about infinite justice and thinking that it isn't the good guy. After waking up, she decides to head over to Sora's place to build a strike by herself. Kanzaki sees some kids walking by and she struggles to even walk into the building. She thinks about backing out, but she runs into Sora. No backing out now. She learns that Sora was born in 2002. Kanzaki thinks to herself, she wasn't even a seed when I was watching Gundam Seed. But Sora seems to love Gundam Seed Destiny, even though many didn't like it. I thought this mentality was more of a Western take. Isn't reception fine in Japan? One local, who comes into the store often, starts talking shit about Destiny, even though he hasn't even seen the show. Sora goes off on the kid and says that everyone's Gundam is someone's favorite Gundam. This resonates with Kanzaki and thinks this is the start of her Gunpla life. It reminds Kanzaki of her love of Shinn and how she empathized with him because he was somewhere in between responsible adult and child, and she related to that. This is the first time someone empathized with the kid with the slappable face. Got him, Shinn fans! All three of you. A friend of Sora said that she doesn't really like Gundam because Gunotas are scary. I assume this is a term they use for Gundam fans? She breaks them down into 3 camps. The people who care about characters and are the shippers. The people who care about story. Oh hey, that's us in this channel. And finally, people who know nothing about Gundam but build Gunpla. But she totally forgot about the 4th faction. The Gremlin Hellfire fans on Twitter. Awful. Awful humans. Sora shows Kanzaki an action base that allows her to pose her Gunpla. While they're showing off pics of Gunpla, a girl walks by him and says trash, and then just walks away. The girl's name is Momoka, and she seems to be jealous. It is getting late, so Kanzaki stays for dinner. Onisan is happy for her sister that she has a friend. Momoka tells all her friends and her family that she will be out late studying, but she is really going to check out some sweet Psychozaku Gunpla on display. She wished she could make friends with people who like Gunpla like her, but every time she runs into similar people, she just calls them trash. Kanzaki and Sora plan on heading to a Gunpla expo with models on display. Momoka plans on showing off her model at the expo. Perhaps then she will make friends. While choosing an outfit, Kanzaki looks at Shinn Asuka in her imagination, who says to her, "I don't know what you should wear. I live in space. Also, I'm not real." Momoka heads out to the event. She is hiding her Gunpla and some luggage, but she accidentally leaves a piece behind. While at the event, Kanzaki doesn't really know a lot of these units. Sora mentions that it is because they are kit bash units, where you combined parts of multiple kits. While at the event, they notice a beautiful Freedom Gundam that was done by someone named Momoka. The two girls run into Momoka. They ask her questions about her Gunpla, but she says that she's actually really embarrassed about doing Gunpla. That is when she spots her mother. Her mother has the eyes. Kanzaki as the adult reminds Sora that you can't change other people's ways. She asks if Kanzaki is embarrassed about Gunpla. Sora says that if it is something that one truly loves, then one shouldn't be hiding behind it. Shinn, acting as Kanzaki's angel, asks her if this is the right thing to do. If Shinn showed up as a ghost, I would do the opposite of what he told me. Sora rushes to Momoka and her mother and decides to be that person who outs people in the Gunpla closet. Rude. Kanzaki says, "Don't worry, I got this." Kanzaki says, "I'm in my 30s and I'm single, and I was denied this hobby as a kid. Now look at me. Look at me." I don't think that was the right approach. The mother asks the two to be Momoka's friend. Later, Shinn Asuka points to a Gunpla box. It is Force Impulse. She knows what her next build will be. Momoka goes into details about the difference between the different grades. High grades and real grades are both 1/144th scale, while master grades are 1/100th. They don't even touch on perfect grades. Kanzaki wants to see a real grade Impulse Gundam in action. They both look at her with blank stares until Sora tells her that they haven't released a real grade yet. This manga is set in 2018, and since then, they have released a real grade. While the two girls argue, Kanzaki thinks back on watching Seed. She was 14 and a few years younger than Kida and somewhat looked up to him. But once Destiny came out, the main character of this was the same age as her. Shinn was someone that she could relate to. Kanzaki nips a tiny piece and it goes flying off. Good luck finding that. Momoka mentions how everyone dreams of being a pilot when they were younger, but Kanzaki always dreamed of being a mechanic. Pilots are on the inside and can't see the armor. She likes looking at the battle damage of mobile suits post-fight. Sora throws in an action base. You know, I think Sora is just making friends to get people to buy stuff from her shop. I'm onto your game, Sora. At work, Kanzaki and her team are having a Christmas party. She is staring at a pen. It happens to be a panel liner pen. At work, she gets a call from Sora. She is amazed by the fact that a young person is making a spontaneous phone call in 2008. Millennials' worst nightmare! She wants to build some Gunpla this holiday season and suggests that they build something red. Kanzaki wants to make Savior. They decide on the high-grade Savior, which came out during the original broadcasting. However, she's gonna make some modifications. She still doesn't understand how panel lining works, so Sora will teach her how to do it. She will come over on the 28th after work dies down for the year. They recruit the help of Momoka. She tells them that making a modified Savior isn't going to be easy. Kanzaki also wants her to teach her panel lining. Momoka does a data dump on panel lining, but it all goes over Kanzaki's head. They then talk about all those critical dicks on Instagram, and Momoka tells them to ignore them. Sora explains that you don't have to apply a surfacer at all. I assume this means a base coat? However, Kanzaki didn't stop at the shop and get any of these products. Luckily, Momoka brought hers. The shop's back rooms are occupied. They have to use Kanzaki's house. We always make fun of Japan here, but it's nice that an adult can genuinely hang out with children, cause my head went to dark places. You win this one, Japan. And that will do it for our first dive into two girls in love with HG. So far, this is a nice, lighthearted story. It took Kanzaki till her 30s to realize that she needs to embrace her hobbies. Even though older, she isn't afraid to learn from the youth. Next time, we see a modified Barbie. Momoka learns more about iron-blooded orphans, and the girls practice clear coating by making a gold frame Amazumina. But that will do it for now, Newtypes. Remember, start that hobby that you've been holding off on. Peace.